This is the Watchtower Report, where strategy meets reality. Today, we unpack one of the most pivotal weeks of 2025. From U.S.-Israel airstrikes on Iran to NATO's shifting war posture and a silent realignment in Africa, the global board has just reshuffled. Let's begin. The Iran strike and ceasefire, it started with a bang, literally. On June 22nd, under the code name Operation Midnight Hammer, U.S. and Israeli aircraft launched coordinated strikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Key facilities like Fordow and Natanz were hit. Iran retaliated by firing ballistic missiles at the U.S. Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. All were intercepted, no casualties. But the message was clear: the red lines are real. Then came the twist. Within 48 hours, President Trump announced a complete and total ceasefire between Iran and Israel. No conditions disclosed, no treaty signed, just a televised announcement, followed by market euphoria. Oil dropped nearly 3%, U.S. futures spiked, but beneath the calm, the storm still simmers. Iran's parliament voted to approve closing the Strait of Hormuz, subject to Supreme Council approval. That's the artery through which nearly a quarter of global oil flows. If the closure happens, expect a seismic economic jolt. The IAEA confirmed very significant damage to the Fordow site. European leaders expressed concern over legality. Russia called the strikes reckless. But in Washington, silence. NATO at the Hague. As the Middle East lit up, NATO leaders gathered in The Hague for what may become a historic summit. Top of the agenda: rearmament, deterrence, and credibility. The alliance pledged to hit 5% of GDP defense spending by 2035, a massive leap from previous targets. Britain's new government pledged 350 more advanced air defense missiles. And for the first time since World War II, the UK has ordered nuclear-capable F-35A jets, a symbolic and strategic message. But the summit wasn't just about weapons. Turkey's Erdogan floated a shocking idea: a new Ukraine peace initiative hosted in Ankara, with both Trump and Putin at the table. While Western leaders remain skeptical, the mere suggestion signals a subtle break in NATO's cohesion. Outside the summit, the Dutch deployed drone surveillance and heavy security, not for show, for fear, strategic realignment in Africa. Amid all this, a major diplomatic breakthrough went almost unnoticed. On June 27th, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo signed a U.S.-brokered peace agreement in Washington. The deal mandates withdrawal of Rwandan troops from Eastern DRC joint mineral certification schemes and new intelligence sharing mechanisms. The timing matters. As global powers shift focus from Middle East war zones to African resources, stabilizing Congo, a nation rich in cobalt, copper, and rare earths, becomes essential. Washington sees this as a preemptive move to block China's influence. And with France retreating across the Sahel, the U.S. is quietly replanting its flag. China's calculations. Meanwhile, in Beijing, there's no panic, just planning. The Iran-Israel strikes are being closely studied by Chinese defense analysts. The PLA sees two opportunities: learn from Iran's vulnerabilities to precision strikes, use the West's distraction to accelerate operations in the South China Sea and Taiwan Strait. In a rare editorial, Chinese state media called the Middle East a cautionary tale of escalation driven by emotion, not strategy. Translation: Beijing intends to move coldly, methodically, when the time is right. At the same time, China's oil supply routes remain at risk if Hormuz is blocked. That's why China has deepened talks with Russia, Angola, and Venezuela to diversify energy flows. It's also why Chinese naval drills near the Indian Ocean have intensified this week. Global market shockwaves. The economic aftershocks are already visible. Oil prices surged briefly above $72 per barrel before retreating to $66 to $69 after the ceasefire. Bond yields fell. Investors shifted towards safety, even as equities rebounded. But the deeper story is uncertainty. The Iran-Israel conflict has demonstrated how fragile global energy logistics are, and it's reawakened debates about energy independence, naval choke points, and strategic reserves. Wall Street may be celebrating a ceasefire, but defense contractors, Gulf states, and central banks are bracing for what comes next. Because everyone knows, Ceasefires are not peace, they're just intermissions. This past week wasn't just another chapter, it was a pivot point. Nations tested boundaries, alliances hardened, and in some cases cracked. Peace was declared in one place and quietly dissolved in others. As we move into July, the question isn't whether the world is stable. The question is, what breaks next? And when it does, who controls the narrative? Stay informed on the world's shifting power. Subscribe to the Watchtower Report, where strategy meets reality.